extra point. Phil, how you
All
doing?
right. Hey, Mark, how's it going?
All right, Mac. I couldn't see you there. It looks like you fell off the screen. There you go.
Yeah, yeah, just trying to get a little something going here. But yeah, so gosh, it seems just like we were here, yesterday, which we almost were. We, of course, enjoyed the Friday night show and everybody checking in. Hope everybody had a great Labor Day weekend. And now here we are. Still, a lot of people off work today, so we hope everybody has had a very enjoyable and safe Labor Day extended holiday weekend.
Well, it's probably still going on for some people, Phil. Finishing up strong here on a Monday night, right? Got the grill
It,
going. Still
oh
got good
yeah,
college football on tonight with North Carolina.
yeah. All right. So who's on tonight?
North Carolina, TCU. I believe. I think everybody will be tuning in to see how Bill Belichick does.
Oh, that's right. Bill Belichick going to be making his debut on the college ranks. So definitely looking forward to that. Hey, big shout out before we get started, Dr. Kevin Collins, the Houston Clinic sponsor our Monday show, and we appreciate him for that. Dr. Collins, man, he's a busy guy. Mark, overseeing the Colquitt County Packers as their team physician, and of course the Valdosta State University Blazers, and we appreciate his support of the show.
Yeah, I don't think that people understand what an orthopedic surgeon, how much they actually work. I've been to many Colquitt games, and he doesn't miss a game. By the way, he travels with them. So he's at the game
Both
on
teams.
Friday. Yeah,
Yep.
travels with them. Friday he's at the game, gets home at who knows what time. Then is traveling back with Valdosta State. I mean, you got to think about it. He's been doing that for, I personally know of, probably 14, 15 years. I mean, that's a lot, and that's every weekend.
Yep. And you got to remember, the games, Mark, the site of the game, the two games I'm talking about, Colquitt's and then VSU's. Mark, as you know, VSU could be playing anywhere in the country.
They could. Yeah, I tell you, I cut up with him a lot whenever I see him. I'm like, Dr. Collins, how can you keep this up? That's every weekend. Plus, in his practice surgeries during the week, he doesn't take a couple of days off during the week to offset these Fridays and Saturdays.
Right. But we also, again, appreciate him for sponsoring our weekly Colquitt County, speaking of Colquitt County, our weekly Colquitt County Coaches Show with Sean Calhoun, Mark.
Yeah, that should be. I know that was a tough loss for them Friday night at Norconet. Of course, Norconet's got a good team. We had talked about that.
Yeah.
Certainly look forward to catching up with Coach Calhoun tomorrow.
Yeah, Phil's going to be a busy boy tomorrow. We normally split our coaches shows. We do 6 coaches shows every week. I normally split those between Monday and Tuesday, but because of the Labor Day holiday, we're going to put them all together, back to back to back, and some more to backs in there. Going to be doing all 6 of the coaches shows back to back tomorrow. We're going to just do them. When we get one done, we'll go right to the next one. I was fortunate to be able to stack them like that, but yeah, going to be doing a lot of talking football. And listen, don't act like I'm not looking forward to it. I am absolutely chomping at the bit to talk to these coaches, Mark, because they were all involved in some pretty interesting football games.
Well, we've started now that we're into the season. So each week, I think it's gonna just get better and better, and different storylines unfold. So yeah, you'll be very busy tomorrow. You'll get caught up on everything, certainly from those teams, packing that all in on one day. But hey, Phil, that's what you do.
Absolutely. Hey, that's like I said, no complaining here, man. I'm living the dream, and I mean that. That's not just easy speak. Truly living the dream. Love what I do. Mark, let's find out. Let's check in and see who is in the house. We got Reggie, who, of course, Reggie's son plays starting quarterback for the Camden County Wildcats. They had another win. Reggie, what's going on with you, my man? Thanks so much for your support. I know you're a regular viewer and supporter of the show, man. So we appreciate you, Reggie, checking in. Mark, real quick, Andrew Watkins is checking out the show. Why do I point him out? And Mark, I want to start right off and talk off the bat talking about this. Andrew Watkins is a Creekside fan. And Mark, Friday night, and listen, I'm going to own up to it here. Friday night, we were talking about Creekside getting walloped the last couple of years. I think it was one of the teams, I think it was Mater Dei, and then it was DeSoto. Well, by golly, Creekside got their revenge, Mark, on Saturday. And
Yeah,
it was
I
Creekside
noticed
scored
that,
70
man.
points.
Hats off to Creekside because I know, we thought they may have struggled, but hey, we're always rooting for these Georgia teams to do
Sure.
well in these out of state matchups. So
That's right.
they definitely did something right. I mean, DeSoto historically, I mean, they're a football powerhouse. So for Creekside to win that game in the way that they did, I think Creekside has some pin up frustration for the last several years, and it just all
Yep.
came out. It's like things started up and
Absolutely.
rolling, and they're like, we're gonna keep our foot on the gas.
Yep, and I tell you, good for them. And you know what, Creekside fans, I owe you. I sit right here and I eat some humble pie today, and I'm not afraid to do that. I was calling you guys out a little bit, although y'all did come back and win the state championship. Was that 2 years ago? Anyway, you guys proved that y'all belong. Great win, big time win. Not just to come back and win, but to turn around and put 70 on the team that put 70 on y'all last year. Look, that's what makes this game of high school football so great, isn't it, Mark?
So, 100%. Phil, I got to ask you, though, where have you got Creekside in your rankings this week?
Hang on a second, I'll tell you.
You know, I mean, I feel like I saw some rankings today. They had Creekside number 2, I believe.
I've got them at number 3. They're right behind North Oconee, who's a defending state champion and undefeated.
Yeah.
And then Blessed Trinity is at number 2, coming off a big win over Prince Avenue Christian.
Well,
being by a couple of touchdowns.
I believe Creekside should be number 1. Hey, you beat DeSoto. You put 70 on DeSoto, so I don't know. You got to bump them up.
We'll certainly consider that.
Yeah.
By the way, speaking of Blessed Trinity, they are our number 1 team in toughest schedule. They have what I projected, and if you guys missed it, you can go back and take a look at our top 10 toughest schedules. I did this last year, Mark, and of course we did it again this year, and released it just before the season started. And I've got Blessed Trinity as the state's hardest schedule, and it's because they're playing teams again like Prince Avenue Christian and some of the others. Bowden, I think they opened up with them, but anyway. Blessed Trinity at number 2 right now. But we'll see. Like, got a lot of football left to be played in 4A, as well as all the other classifications, Mark.
Yeah, certainly a lot of football to be played, but I'm gonna be rooting for Creekside now. Rather than DeSoto. I mean, they're doing something right there.
Oh, they are. Hey, guys, so you can see where this is going. Mark's going to be calling me once a week. Well, of course, we're going to be doing the show together. Phil, where you got Creekside?
Well, we got beating DeSoto, putting 70 on them.
That is huge.
That's got to get your attention.
It does, and it definitely got my attention. Mark, let's take a look at who else is in the house. Of course, we got Obadiah Farley. Checking in. What's going on?
Riding high. I mean, TCC.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Big time win. Look, I'll go ahead and say this right now. And I know we got all season left. I know we got the playoffs to go. But I'm going to tell you guys, I don't see anybody stopping Thomas County Central. I don't. I just think they have got superior athletes.
Well, you're gonna have to score a lot to beat them. There's no question about that.
You really are.
I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I mean he had backups in for a lot of that game, and they were still scoring. And again, I get it. Everybody looks well. Maybe the team you're playing's off, but when you just keep scoring, when you're putting the second team and the third team in, that says a lot about your team. It certainly says a lot about the depth.
Yeah. All right, take a look at who else we got checking out the show today. Our good buddy, he is our Roswell Hornets representative. Of course, I'm talking about Evan Reese. Says, good evening, go mighty Roswell Hornets. made a lot of mistakes and played a bad second half, but you guys were able to get away with the win, Evan. And Mark, that's what good teams do. They fall behind and they still find a way to get it done. There's a couple of other teams, Mark, that we're going to talk about in today's show that kind of faced that same dilemma the other night.
Yeah, and he mentioned, they almost lost that game. Uh,
Yep.
and of course, again, look, I think we saw it in uh, the college games Saturday. There's several of those games that did not go as quote predicted. Uh, some I'm happy about, some it wouldn't matter. But if I'm not mistaken, I was listening to a show a little bit this morning that aired Friday. They were talking about the games coming up, and this particular individual said that Alabama was just going to kill Florida State. It wouldn't even be close. Totally got that wrong. It was flipped the other way around. FSU had a great game, and by the way, Usmani Croma, he had a good game when he got his chances. He capitalized, and I saw today already where he's been named the co-starter for next Saturday.
Oh, really?
Yeah, look, that kid's a winner. I mean, he had a couple of decent runs. They put him in a couple of times. I watched that entire game. Really watching it because of Uzi money. And FSU played great. Watch out for them. And I don't know what's wrong with Alabama. They just look like they weren't ready to play. So again, you can think about college teams of that caliber, and you get those surprises. I mean, Friday night we have to remember 15, 16, 17-year olds playing with these high schools don't have the resources the colleges do. So you're going to see see some things deviate from what people think will happen.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Again, going through our viewers that are checking in. Eric Evans. Hey, Phil in the gang watching from Columbus, Ohio. Well, that's interesting. We were just talking about Ohio
Columbus,
State, Mark.
Ohio.
And then
Yeah.
we got Eric Evans checking out from the. How far are you, Eric, from the Big Horseshoe, home of the Columbus Ohio State Buckeyes? I mean,
Well, aren't they located in Columbus? In
I
Ohio,
think they are.
Ohio
Yeah,
State. I think
pretty
they're in
sure. Yep.
Columbus. Yeah.
That's what I was saying. How far was he from the stadium? Don't they call it the Big Horseshoe?
Yeah, the horseshoe.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, I had a tough one in that game. I'm typically not don't really care about Ohio State that much, but that's another game that, to be honest with you, was a little bit of a letdown. Really on both sides to me. I don't think either team played up to their potential, but Ohio State got the win.
All right, so we got Eric Evans. He's Eric. Just want to check it in. Says Tiff gave Lee County all they could handle Friday night. We're going to talk more about that game, Eric. You're absolutely right. On our Friday night show, we had a lot of conversation, a lot of fans checking in about Tiff County. Boy, they gave Lee County all they could handle. And again, I think it's just a continuation of what we've been talking about. In the fact that Tiff County, I think, is showing that hey, it's a different era under Jeff Littleton. Philip Jacob Williams checking out the show. TCC in the house. He's checking in from Savannah. So we got a lot of folks that are checking in from different parts of, all parts of the country, really. As Philip Jacob Williams checking in from Savannah over on the coast. David Woods checking in from Grayson. Ram country is David Woods. We're going to talk about that Grayson game, Mark. That's, again, great teams finding a way to get it done. And that was Grayson Friday night, Mark.
Well, that's the indicator of a good program. As you just mentioned, that good teams find ways to win. They expect to win. And you see that with some teams just trying to develop that winning attitude. Well, Grayson has that. And they have found a way to win, given the fact that they've lost one of their leaders in Travis Burgess, great kid. But Phil, you and I were talking earlier, and you had mentioned that quarterback led them on a 99-yard touchdown drive and like a 75-yard touchdown
Yep.
drive. So that
Yep.
speaks very well of I'm not really familiar with that young man at all, but it is Coach DeBerry. That's what he said. Our expectations have not changed.
Yeah, he said that, and he told, of course, he told me that, Mark. Well, we interviewed. I had the privilege of being able to interview Coach DeBerry. He's the athletic director at Grayson. Of course, you know him well. You know those folks up there well, and we enjoy a great relationship with schools up there, including Grayson. And then had a chance also to talk with Travis Burgess' dad, and all this occurred, I guess, on Thursday or maybe early Friday. I can't remember, but anyway, we talked with him, and Mark just mentioned it, guys, in my conversation with both Travis Burgess's father Harold and Coach DeBerry. Coach DeBerry said, "Hey, we obviously are sad about what happened to Travis. We wish him the best in his recovery. I think it's safe to say his playing days at Grayson are done." And I think everybody has accepted that. He's going to have surgery if he hadn't had it already. And his dad, Harold Burgess, confirmed that for me, that he would undergo surgery to repair the torn damage in his left knee. So obviously he can get ready to go play for Bill Belichick in North Carolina. Now, getting back to Coach DeBerry, Mark, he said, "Look, we hate that happened to Travis, but we've got to keep the show rolling." And the Burgesses understand that. And so this young man stepping in place of Travis Burgess. And look, Mark, he had a rough start. Threw 3 interceptions in that game against Thompson, who's the defending Class 7A Alabama State champions. Okay. Mark Freeman is the coach. He's a great guy. I talked to him, by the way, and I'm going to be interviewing him tomorrow. Got to get in his side of things. And so I know him well. His name has come up in a lot of these Georgia high school job openings that we've had. But anyways, that kind of coach. He is the quarterback whisperer. He is the guy that Tua Tagovailoa's father brought his sons over to work with. That's where Tua went to school. And the other Tagovailoa brothers, and I hope I'm saying their name right. But anyway, Trent Seaborn, Mark, is the quarterback for Thompson. Remember, he was the freshman phenom couple of years ago that made the big splash and led Thompson to the state championship. Remember that?
I do remember that. Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, having said all that, Grayson going up against a tough cookie. They fell behind. They intercepted the young man from Grayson. His name will come to me in a minute. They intercepted him 3 times. But Mark, he came back like winners do and led them, as you just said, 99-yard touchdown drive, 71-yard touchdown drive, and leads them back from the brink of defeat to come back and defeat Thompson and prove yet again, hey, we lost our starting quarterback. We hate that, but the show must go on. And we're more than, just one man. Travis Burgess meant a lot. Do not misunderstand what I'm saying. But Mark, championship teams find a way to rally the troops. And that's where Santavius Bryant, the head coach, one of the youngest head coaches in Georgia, Mark, that's where he steps in and his leadership comes through. And again, you've met those guys face to face, so you have a little bit more introspective than I do, Mark.
Well, I've said multiple times they have large numbers on the team. The reason you haven't heard a lot about the backup, the second, third quarterback at Grayson is, well, because Travis Burgess is the number 1 quarterback and he gets all the attention that is it's well deserved. Now we're starting to see his backup come in and keeps winning. And that's the name of the game. And with the numbers that they have, again, there'll be a hard out for anyone.
Oh, absolutely. And, I'm going to say a little something too. We've seen some of the teams in Georgia, look, for whatever reason, they don't have the hardest of schedules coming out of the gate. I'll say this for Grayson, they have not shied away, Mark. They're putting their money where their mouth is. And they really are, even though they won the state championship last year, Mark, they didn't go out and schedule a bunch of cream puffs so they could pad the record. No, they are taking on all comers, and they're still beating them. To me, that's where you really solidify your legacy as a football program.
And the other thing that they're doing, I mean, not only they're playing tough teams inside of Georgia, I mean, they're playing some of these games of out of state. And Grayson wants to be known as a national power.
Right.
That's what they want to do. They want to play some of these out of state games. They
Right.
want people to know Grayson and what they're doing is working. I mean, they're ranked. Last time I looked, it was four nationally, so I'm not sure where they are now. But they're ranked in most everybody's top 10 nationally, rightfully so.
Yeah.
So I think they'll continue to move on again. They'll be a hard out in 6A. But the other thing is, I mean, hats off for them to scheduling those tough games in those out of state programs as opposed to sometimes some teams find a hard time getting teams to even play them. So I do think we see some teams that maybe are not as tough or not as stiff a competition as I normally would be because some of these non-region games, I mean, some teams find a hard time getting those games scheduled. So you have to go out of state to try to get them filled.
Yeah, absolutely. You're watching Extra Point with myself, Phil Jones, Mark Dykes checking in with me as he has done pretty much every week. Don't forget, guys, if you are missing our Friday night show, well, let's fix that. Mark and I will come to you every Friday night after most of your games are finishing up or either done. And we'll all talk together and kind of keep each other up to date on what's happening. A lot of you coming out of these games on Friday night are able to give us an update from where it is you're coming from. And speaking of Friday night, Mark, we had some great games take place around the state. We talked about some of the obvious choices. We talked about Grayson, of course. By the way, his name was Deuce Smith. I should have known that. Deuce Smith, the backup quarterback coming in place of Travis Burgess. And again, for all of you, anybody that thought that, well, they were going to lose a step, you're wrong. Grayson not missing a step. They are rocking and rolling. Here's another thing, Mark. Imagine what that game did for that young man and the confidence of the team and the confidence in him that now that team has. If there was
Well,
any doubt about whether he could lead the team.
yeah, they're just building momentum, which is what you want to do. At the end of the day, you just want to make the playoff, get in it, peak at the right time. I believe Coach Pilcher, when he was at Thomas County Central, winning those five state championships, one of those state championships, he won with five losses. The
Yep,
other
that's
thing
right.
I'd point out, he won those state championships, if I'm not mistaken. He only had either one or two D1 players for all five of those state championships, which speaks to the kind of team they had, the kind of leader he was. But I think Grayson's going to go into the dance riding high undefeated, and then you may have some teams that are just peaking at the right time. They may have some losses, and that's why we all need to keep things in perspective, especially early in the season. Everybody's goals are still in front of them.
Absolutely. Stephen Tate is checking in. Stephen, part of the Coffee Tailgate Brigade, that was winners of our first week one tailgate. By the way, I know Mark has been really reminding you guys. We talked about that Friday. Send us your tailgate pictures, guys. Okay. You can win a great prize pack. We give you a prize pack, or actually our friends at what's the name of our sponsor on
Sunset
that?
Farm Food.
Sunset Farms. Sunset Farms is giving away a prize pack, and of course, it makes sense. It's the food that you can throw on the tailgate, guys. All the great sausage that you can throw on the grill and tailgate with. So not only are you going to be able to flex your tailgate muscle, but you can also win some great food for your next tailgate. So send us those pictures in. You can send it to me at phil@itgnext.com. You can send it to Mark, Anna at itgnext.com. Send it to any of us, guys. We're real easy to find. I know I communicate with a lot of you, and you guys can find me. So send us those pictures of your tailgate. Again, brought to you by our friends at Sunset Farms.
Be nice to
Brian
have.
Bird. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it'd be nice to smell some sausage coming off the grill, right before the game.
Nothing like it. Nothing like it. Chapo Dalhoun. I think he's a new name in here. Says this Friday, Calhoun versus Cartersville. All right, Chapo, you're going to be at that game. We want you to send us some tailgate pics. Let's see what they do at Calhoun Cartersville tailgate style. Greg Maddox, speaking of tailgate, Mark, I met Greg Maddox. I've heard about him, talked to him a lot. He's a regular of the show. Greg Maddox, good afternoon, Phil and Mark. Greg is part of the Concrete Palace tailgate crew. Greg, pardon me if I'm butchering that up, but 70 something people meet out there at Lowndes in this one group, Mark. And they tailgate. They were already set up when I went out there. And so good folks. And Greg is a part of that. Greg, thanks so much. It was great to finally meet you and put a name or put a face behind the name, rather. So it was good to meet you, Greg. Appreciate you checking in the show, my man.
Well, speaking of good tailgates, probably not any better tailgate atmosphere in the state of Georgia than the Concrete Palace. I mean, that line, that road back there, close to I-75, where it's special. The Concrete Palace. By the way, Lowndes is kind of just flying under the radar. Of course, I don't think they'll fly under too much longer. I mean, they're getting people's attention. I mean, look, they're undefeated, but I'm sure they're gonna, have a game where their competition is a little stiffer. We'll see exactly what Lowndes has this year.
Yeah, no doubt. By the way, Obadiah Farley reminds us, Mark, we know about the Wintersville Classic in Valdosta, but Mark, they have a pretty darn good rivalry game over in Thomasville that's going to be coming up this Friday night.
TCC Thomasville, boy, another great town for high school football. Of course, I do think you have to put things in perspective there. You got TCC 5A, and is
Yeah,
Thomasville single A, is that correct?
they are. They sure are.
Yeah, so you got 5A single A. I'm glad they're playing the game. I think that town always has to play that game. I think it's going to be tough for Thomasville just in terms of depth and numbers in that game. But what a great game. What a great atmosphere.
Yeah, without a doubt. Mark, I know you have talked about this. I've talked about it, which is it's important. There are certain cities where it means everything to have good competitive football being played. And I tell you, Thomasville is right there at the top. I remember back a few years back when Thomasville had hit a dry patch. This was before Justin Rogers came into Thomas County Central. So you had that town was really not playing. I'm talking about overall, didn't have the best, winning high school football like it does now. And I just remember saying, Thomasville is one of those cities with the great history, the great fan base, just the great town that it is. It needed good high school football. It's important to that town. And well, by golly, Mark, they have straightened it out on both sides. And of course, you got Brookwood that plays well. So I like seeing that, what's going on in Thomasville. And it doesn't matter who you're a fan of. It's just good to see high quality football being played, winning football being played, Mark.
Yeah, both those teams could be in it at the end, potentially having a state championship for each one
Yes.
of those schools. They'll certainly both be in the hunt. It'd be nice to have a couple of state champions from the same town.
Yeah, 100%. All right, continue to take a look. Hey, guys, so let us know what game you were at this past week, what game you're going to be at this weekend. Let me see here. Taking a look, I mentioned, Todd Bailey confirms it's the Schoo that they call the stadium at Ohio State over in Columbus. Heather Knight Rodriguez checks in. Hello, everyone. Go Jackets. Go Knowles. Hashtag TCC. Hashtag FSU. So she's getting it in for both teams there, Mark. Of course, TCC, and Tallahassee, or Thomasville and Tallahassee, not far at all from each other. So it makes sense that you got a lot of fans for both teams there.
Well, there's a lot of FSU fans in South Georgia. I mean, it started back with Bobby Bowden getting Charlie Ward, but Bobby Bowden would come into South Georgia and recruit all the great players in South Georgia. He would get them from UGA. I don't think Kirby does a great job. I think tries to recruit the kids in South Georgia. Of course, we've talked about NIL and with everything going on in college today, it's a different world for high school athletes. They may end up anywhere. That being said, Bobby Bowden always recruited South Georgia, and a lot of FSU fans in South Georgia. It's nice to see them get back on track. No one saw that coming. I don't think. I mean, somebody thought maybe if they run, it would have been a very close game. FSU dominated that game. The it's just insane. People in Alabama, they got to go back to the drawing board. If that same Alabama team plays like that all year, it's going to be tough.
All right. Rosser Sutherland checking in from Marietta. Rosser says we got Hillgrove this week after we dominated McEachern defensively, but still managed to lose. Rosser, I hear you, brother. That's a fan right there, by golly. He's taking up for his team. They dominated, but they lost the game. I hear you, Rosser. They are playing better. Marietta is under Cameron Duke. No doubt about that. You can see the improvement. Another team you can see the improvement in is Tift County, like we talked about. By the way, for those of you that may want to hear more from Jeff Littleton, I'm going to be talking to Coach Littleton. It'll be tomorrow. Now, you guys will be able to probably see the show on Wednesday. But I'm going to be interested to hear more what all Jeff Littleton has to say about, his Blue Devils, maybe some of the calls that went against Tift County. And I'm going to get his rundown on what he thought about Tift. And, of course, also going to do that with McEachern's head coach, Colquitt County's head coach, Mark. I'm interested to hear from Sean Calhoun. Colquitt County lost a heartbreaker up there in Suwanee Friday night, Mark. I know we were talking about it Friday night on that show. But Colquitt County, maybe some question marks to answer. And we'll hear from Coach Calhoun tomorrow. Colquitt County only able to score that one touchdown against a very good North Gwinnett defense, Mark, and losing 21-7.
Well, again, that's to me. I think that's a great game to get scheduled early in the year. Coach Calhoun takes the team on the road. You travel. You hope you're having to travel during the playoffs. So again, everything's still in front of them. But it's a great
Yeah,
game. I'd rather play that game than a game that I'm just going to run away with. Nobody
right,
wants to lose, but
right.
it's a feeling out period right now.
Well, Mark, you said it perfectly. I mean, you got that loss against North Gwinnett really, in the grand scheme of things, means nothing. It's a
No,
non-region game.
only the last
That's
game
right.
means something.
That's exactly right. Look, let's look back last year. North Gwinnett came to Colquitt and beat Colquitt County 14-3 was that score. So these two teams have know each other pretty well. Right now, North Gwinnett, for whatever, he's got the upper hand. But my point is that Colquitt County rebounded and went on to have a pretty good year. I think they beat Lowndes by a field goal, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, Colquitt County is going to be fine under Sean Calhoun. Understand there were some fans kind of unhappy, grumbling, but you know what? When you're a program like Colquitt County and you've built up, expectations to win every game, that's what's going to happen when you lose a game. You're going to be like, what happened? But you know what? That's a good thing. You never accept losing. And when you do, you start to question everything. But guys, Colquitt County's in very good hands under Sean Calhoun.
Yeah, it would be disturbing to hear somebody, criticize the coaching staff at Colquitt because you travel on the road, go to North Gwinnett and lose a game. I mean, look, it's high school football. He does an outstanding job with the X's and O's as well as creating being a great leader. So, look, I can speak firsthand about Sean Calhoun. He's a first class guy. If
Yes.
somebody is being critical, then they should walk in his shoes for a little bit and then say something. We also talk about too. Look, again, South Georgia's not getting moving. You got to play with who you have. I mean, if you really think about it objectively, there's no way that you can have incredible players every year. It's just the law of odds. You're not recruiting. You can't go, at least in South Georgia, there's really none of that going on. Very little moving around. I get it in other parts of the state where you got a lot of kids moving around. And if you want to win consistently, the only way, if you have 4 and 5 star athletes year in, year out, there's something else going on. Yeah, it's just
Yeah,
where it is.
right. Jonathan James Gibson is checking in, Mark, from Melbourne, Florida. He says, hello, Lee County 2013 graduate here, checking in from Melbourne, Florida. Where's Melbourne, Florida at, Mark? Where is it at down there in Florida? Exactly.
Now, if you hadn't asked me, I could have told you. I should know where Melbourne is. Uh, it sounds like a great place.
Oh, I bet it is. Yeah, I have no idea. Well, I guess we can ask Jonathan. Jonathan James Gibson, where exactly is Melbourne? I think it's over, and I'm just guessing here, Mark. I think it's over on the west side of Florida. I would think. I think it is, but I'm just guessing on the Gulf side.
We'll figure it out here. I noticed
Yeah, go ahead.
you were talking about the calls. Uh,
Yeah,
I think Stephen K. Wynn, the calls that went against Tiff. Lee had two penalties.
yep,
Uh, give Tiff credit, no excuses. Tiff played a great game. They gave everything they had, left it all on the field. Lee overcame some personal issues and fought hard to get that win. Yeah, he's exactly right. Tiff County has nothing to hold their head about. You you can't get caught up in the refs and that kind of thing. Tiff County is on progress. We knew Jeff Littleton would make that
yeah.
team better and make that program better, and he has done that. But boy, Lee County has athletes. I mean, they seem to have great athletes every year. I mean, he's got folks that can take it to the house. I mean, the quarterback, just all you have to do is keep giving it to him because the law of odds, he's going to break it and break one.
Absolutely, Mark. Look. Here's the thing about it. What a lot of people don't remember, Mark, is last year Canton Williams. He was the backup at Lee County. He was the backup to Usmani. Okay, and he rushes for 700 yards. Now that's playing behind Usmani, Mark. And that got lost on a lot of people. So he's the guy, he's really the primary running back this year, although it's like Dean Fabrizio told me. He said, I've got a lot of good running backs. We're trying to figure out how to get them all touches. So instead of having that one really standout back, you've got Canton Williams. He's a good one, but you've got several others that he's got a lot of confidence in running the football. So it's more of a true team concept this year at Lee County. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Lee County has got a group of linebackers and defensive backs that are among some of the best in the state. I don't think they've found their groove yet, but I think when they do, they're going to come around, and I think it's going to be just at the right time. Remember, I said this because I think Lee County is going to be just fine when it comes region time. I think it's a new team, Mark. It's a new group of guys that are trying to learn to play together, and that's where I think this team is at right now.
Well, I still say I don't think you can be better losing a Western Brighton and Usmani Croma. That's just my basic thinking. Now, Tiff County did move the ball on Lee County.
Yeah,
I watched part of that game. They were certainly moving the ball.
right. Well, Mark, and again, you got to face the facts too. You've got the Tiff County game where I know there's some people, in Lee County a little bit worried. Remember, they also were scoreless week before last against Hapeville Charter, which, by the way, Mark, the rest of that game, the second half of that game is going to be made up tomorrow.
What time?
Somebody help me out with I think it's 7:00. So those two teams, Hapeville Charter is going to drive over to Leesburg, and they're going to finish it out tomorrow. Lee County and Hapeville Charter, and they're going to pick it up where they left off, which was 0-0. Again, this was before the Tiff County game. So here they go, Mark. They're going to be playing Tiff County Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So only 3 days rest, Mark. They're going to come right back out and play a half of football against Hapeville Charter.
Is that what's left? A half, a third, and fourth
Yes.
quarter?
Yep.
Boy, how about
Yep.
that? It says a lot about Hayfield Charter. Let's get on that bus and drive back down to Leesburg and finish this game. They must be
Here,
feeling pretty
here.
good about that situation. I mean,
Well,
I don't know.
yeah.
If I'm at Lee County, I'd probably, hey, these guys feel like they can beat us. We need to make a statement.
I'm intrigued, and I didn't get a chance to talk to Coach Fabrizio today. Of course, it's Labor Day, but I'm intrigued that these teams would want to even make this game up.
Well, that's what I'm baffled, just for a variety of reasons. First of all, it's a long drive for Hateville Charter. I mean, that's a long haul to come play that game. Second of all, you're playing a game, as you mentioned, they played Friday, and then they also have another game coming up. So I don't know, something's going on. But hey, I guess the kids want to play it, the coaches want to play it. I wonder if it were reversed and Lee County had to drive, would they want to play it?
Yeah, again, non-region game. I'm reaching out to Coach Fabrizio right now, and I'm going to see if he'll get back with me, Mark, while we are live, and see if he'll get back with me before we depart at 7.
Well, that would be interesting to know exactly why they want to play that game. I'm again a little bit that either coach would want to play it. I mean, you only got so much football in you for the season. Your body can
Yeah.
only take so many hits. Uh, I don't know. I would just say let that one go if it were me.
Yeah, so I'm going to reach out to Fabrizio. You guys bear with me a second. We'll continue on as
So Phil,
yeah.
we've had a couple of people comment. I'm not sure what game they're referring to, but it's so when did coaches start being able to bump officials and only get an unsportsmanlike penalty? Uh, Adam Hips, if you could help us out, what game, Phil, you know what they're referring to? Evidently, there's a game a coach bumped an official.
That's the first I've heard of that, Mark. First I've
Yeah,
heard of
we've
that.
had a couple of people mention that.
Really? Um,
Yeah,
that's interesting.
I wouldn't
And I
think
think what he's referring to, Mark, is they used to be an ejection, right?
yeah, that's what I was about to say. I don't think you can bump an official. Now, was it an accident? Oh, Fabrizio at half. Said
I think that's who he
Fabrizio.
was talking about.
Okay, all right. That would be interesting to go back and look at that.
All right, so I posed the question. Of course, I don't want to ask him about that question, but I just
Yeah,
posed the question.
you may ought to ask him about that, Phil. But,
Yeah, I'll maybe do that in a different setting. But
well, I hadn't seen it, but like if you're animated in it, it's accidental. But if if you're all up in the ref's face and it's, I don't know, when you touch the ref, that's not a good thing.
no, that's not a good thing. And listen, I'll say this. I look. We did this thing about the 10 most passionate coaches, and that goes with just really being about your team, taking up for your team. And I think to a man, everybody pretty much agreed with our assessment, Mark, that Dean Fabrizio was indeed the most animated, the most, he was the most fired up coach in the state. And I think he is. And I think sometimes I guess what I'm trying to say is Dean Fabrizio I think there's a pretty good mutual respect between him and referees. Mark, you and I know a
Yeah,
few game officials, and they'll tell you that Fabrizio may give them be in their ear, but at the same time, he's respectful. He drums up a good relationship and conversation with them. So I guess what I'm saying is, I don't think there's ever any malice intended with Dean Fabrizio when it comes to officials. I really don't.
yeah, I would think certainly there's nothing intentional there. You get caught up in the game. I know Adam Yip said, hey, he was at the game, he witnessed it. I'd be interested. I think those games they're on the NFHS. You can go back and rewatch them close to the half. I don't know if that if it was picked up on video, but I don't know. I think you see it at all levels. You got some coaches that are very passionate, some that aren't. I think you got to put at the top of the list. Of course, different sport. Bobby Knight when he used to coach in Indiana. he would tend to get a little bit passionate, probably cross the line a little bit. But
All right, so here's Dean Fabrizio. He's responded to me. And here's what he had to say, Mark, and for all of our viewers out there. So I asked Coach Fabrizio just a few minutes ago. I said, Coach, hey, we're live here on the show, and everybody's kind of wondering, why did you guys decide to come back and make up this second half? Coach Fabrizio just responded to me, guys, and he says the GHSA rule states you have to finish the game. That one team was ahead, and I think he must have been trying to voice text here, so I'm going to try to make out what I can here. GHSA rule says you have to finish the game where one team was ahead and both sides agree. You can call the game at any point, and that will be final. But games cannot end in a tie.
games cannot end in a tie.
So I'm going to ask him for some clarification.
Well, I didn't realize that. I didn't realize they would make you play the game if it's a non. I get it if it's a region game. Either way, you ought to play the game. But uh, I mean, they're not even in the same classification.
No, well, and I mean, like Colquitt County and Monroe, Mark, they had the same situation with weather. They just elected not to play the game, not to finish the game at all.
Right. That's what I think most people would have thought would happen to me. But I guess if there's no score, but it's not going to have any impact. They're not even in the same classification, so I don't see how that would have any impact on anything moving forward.
Yeah. So he is responding to me now. We'll see if he can give me a little bit clarification, a little clearer answer on this. And I am asking him how their game compared to the Colquitt County Monroe game, which both coaches agreed. Hey, let's just. All right. So let's see here. So Coach Fabrizio has come back with another explanation that says, if one team is ahead, both teams can declare the game final at any point. But a game cannot end in a tie. Now, I did not know that. He says, but a game cannot end in a tie, especially for Hateville, seeing as their power rankings in their division. So that's right. So you're talking about Hateville being a what are they?
Too
Are
late.
they? Yeah, 2A. That's right. So they're 2A. So they're going to get caught up in that. How the rankings are for Class A through 3A. They're going to get caught up in the power rankings that establish the playoffs. So I can
Well,
understand that.
yeah, I guess that makes sense. They scheduled that game and thought, hey, we'll go down to Lake County and get a big win, and we're going to be at the top of those power rankings.
And that
That
would
was
be
it
huge. Can
was
you imagine? Yeah,
well,
go ahead.
it was 0-0, which is
Yeah.
very shocking to be honest with you at Lee County.
Oh, absolutely. Now, Stephen K. Wynn, if you're still in the show, if you were there, or really anybody that was at the game at Lee County Hateville Charter, let me know how that thing went. What was the flow of the game? Was it as bad as the tie indicated, or what?
I'm trying. It's hard to figure the Lee County team I saw playing TIF. I couldn't imagine them going scoreless to Hateville Charter in the first half. Not with the athletes on the field.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's talk about take a look at some of the other games. I guess going on that took place on Friday night. Mark, how about Brooks County? I know we talked about it on Friday night show, but Brooks County lost to Cook, and from what I understand, Cook pretty much dominated this game, Mark, from start to finish.
That's a little shocking. I mean, I think Cook County is certainly on the rise, but yeah, I think Brooks County will get it figured out. I guess there were some quarterback issues. They have some great athletes on that team. I think, Phil, you mentioned that did the same thing last year, wound up playing for the state championship. Wouldn't surprise me if Brooks is not back in the mix toward the end of the year. But that score does surprise me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Stephen Tate now chiming in, pretty much repeating what Dean Fabrizio said. You know, and again, I forgot about them being using the power rankings. Remember too, Mark, this is interesting, and for our viewers out there. Now, remember next year, the playoffs will also, for the upper classifications, will also be going to the power rankings, and that's going to be interesting because we're not
Yes,
going to have the
that will be very interesting. You know, they'll be both good and bad. And that personally, I think it's the right thing to do.
I like it too.
Yeah,
I like
because
it too,
that
Mark.
way at least you feel like uh, you know that all the good teams are getting in the hunt, so to speak, and some teams
Right.
are
And
far
yeah, and you don't
further
have to count,
behind.
just because it's top four in the region. I've never liked that anyway, Mark. You follow
Yeah,
me?
yeah, no, I agree. I agree that 100%.
All right, so let's go back and check out some of these. Oh, by golly, he made it. Luke Nelson, aka Big Buford, is in the house. Luke is always fashionably late, but he always makes it. Luke is he's a friend, and appreciate him checking out the show. Luke, what's happening, brother? Hey, it was Luke and Buford, Mark, winners of our tailgate package this past week.
There you go. Two great places.
You're not kidding about that. By the way, it's Luke Nelson. It's Kenny Perlott. I hope I'm saying his name right, Luke. Um, his son Jaden made his debut at the University of Tennessee this weekend. I don't know how they did, but Luke Nelson's son, of course, Kanan, big game week before last at Buford. So a lot of good going on up there in Gloryland for sure. By the way, who's Buford got this weekend, Luke? Let us know. Alan Clanton is checking out the show. What's up, Alan? All right, people are explaining about the reason the difference between Monroe and Moultrie Colquitt was that they never started, whereas Colquitt, or rather Lee County and Hateville, did start. So we got it, guys. Appreciate we got the best viewers, most smartest football viewers in the world, without a doubt. Let's see who else is checking out the show. Adam Hips, I think you mentioned earlier, he's checking out the show. Number one from Brooks is a beast, but he can't do it himself. I wonder if is that George Lamons?
I don't know that he's number one.
There was another guy you were talking about too, Mark, who
Yeah,
is
their
corner.
defensive back who is
Yeah.
committed to Tech and said he's staying with that. Texas has offered him now. I know he was scheduling a visit to Texas. You know, they got some great talent on that team. I'm sure they'll get it figured out.
Oh, I agree with you, Mark, 100%. So Jonathan James Gibson responds to our question about the Lee County Hateville game, kind of what was going on there, what was the flow of the game like. Jonathan says it was a defensive battle and both had very slow offenses. Mark, I think he pretty much sums it up. I think that's kind of what Lee County is battling right now. They're still trying to find their identity, Mark, on offense without Weston Bryan, without Usmani Cromah. I mean, let's face it, those are huge shoes to fill. And that's a lot of production to fill, Mark.
A whole lot of production to fill, as we could see on Saturday with Usmani getting playing time. And saw someone post he had 7 rushes for 28 yards. He had one that he was carrying some people and knocking people over. And the fact that he now is mentioned as a co-starter for this next week's game, Florida State will be nationally ranked. He will make a big impact on that FSU program during his time there. He'll stay. He'll play 3 years, and then he'll go to the NFL. Great kid. He deserves it. So, but you're exactly right. Hard to replace him. and Western Bryant.
Guys, let me ask you guys a question. As y'all know, ITG Next, we do our top 10 every week with every classification. In addition to our own top 10, we join with 5 other state media outlets to put together the composite poll. Mark, you're familiar with what I'm talking about, of course.
Oh yeah.
So it's pretty interesting. All of us agree, for the most part, that Lowndes and Valdosta both are ranked top 10. In fact, I think we're all pretty much right in the same ballpark with and what we all do, of course. And my buddy Todd Holcomb and Chip Say, who were with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, they're the ones that puts together the Georgia High School Football Daily. But they take everybody's top 10 submitted top 10s, and we come out with what's called the composite, or like an average. The point that I'm getting to is everybody to a man agrees that Lowndes and Valdosta, Mark, are both top 10 teams. Do you think, in your opinion, I'm going to pose it to you, Mark, and our viewers, do you think that Lowndes and Valdosta are going to remain as a top 10? Are they going to remain in the top 10 going into and even through the playoffs? How much staying power do they have? I guess what I'm asking. What are y'all's thoughts? Mark, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think that does have really good teams. I'm just not as familiar with, until they play some stiffer competition. That being said, it's Lowndes and it's Valdosta. I mean, a lot of tradition there.
Yeah.
I believe Adam Carter's now getting his feet under him there. He's been there several years. They've got a really good quarterback at Lowndes, a good line. Valdosta has a lot of key players, a lot of skill players. Shelton Phelps has done a great job there. So, yeah, I mean, certainly I look for both those teams to make the playoffs and to make a run. I've I've said it. I think it's Grayson will be tough. Buford will be tough. Those both those teams will be tough to deal with. But yeah, so I guess to answer your question, sure, yeah, I think Lowndes and Valdosta will be in the top 10.
Well, so far, so good. And like I said, all of us that put together this composite poll are in agreement that they are indeed top 10 teams. We've got Lowndes at, well, real quick, I'll tell you what the composite poll says and what we at ITG Next have them as. So I've got Lowndes at 7, Lowndes at 6, and Valdosta 7. The statewide composite poll, pretty much in line with that. Lowndes 7, Valdosta 8. So we're right there all together. Pretty much all of us agree, somewhere between 6th and 8th spot is where the two teams are. Now, Mark, you mentioned the schedules for both teams. Things are going to get a little tougher for both Lowndes and Valdosta this week, as both teams are going to take on Florida teams. Okay? Lowndes is going to host Manatee, who's coming in 0-2, no 1-1, and I don't know really anything about them. Manatee, why am I guessing they're the Stingrays? I have no idea if I'm right.
I don't think they'll pose a threat to Lowndes coming into the concrete whatever they're called. They're rolling into a tough environment. They will not pose much of a threat to Lowndes, I don't believe.
I got you. Now, Valdosta, Mark, got a little bit more of a tougher cookie. They've got Jesuit, Tampa Jesuit. We're pretty familiar with those guys.
Yeah, we are familiar with them. That's one of the better programs in that greater Tampa area.
Yeah.
They're known in Florida, so yes, that will be a tougher game as opposed to Manatee. But
In fairness, yeah, go ahead.
they're coming to Valdosta, correct?
That's right.
Yeah, yeah. Again, I think both Lowndes and Valdosta win those games.
Well, Mark, last year, giving credit where credit's due, Valdosta went to Tampa last year, made the long ride down there, and they defeated Tampa Jesuit. Can't remember what the score was, but they defeated Tampa Jesuit last year. So these are the games where even though you're a top 10 team, you start winning games like against the Tampa Jesuits and tougher teams. That's only going to solidify your staying power, like I was asking a while ago about, where you pretty much prove, hey, we belong in the top 10. So it's going to be interesting to see moving forward. Mark, you mentioned it. One of the perceptions, and it's real, one of the perceptions, of course, that, Valdosta, Colquitt, by the way. So Region 1-6A, we've got 3 of the teams represented in the top 10 in 6A, Mark, which says a lot. That means there's still a lot of respect and there's a lot of good football being played in this Region 1-6A. But you're going to start to get into tougher competition. You're going to start to get into region play. And then that's where you're going to really have to, prove yourself. And so I think the best is yet to still come.
Well, I think if you're going to play Florida teams, what would I like to see? Well, just sitting here thinking about it, I'd like to see a South Georgia Classic, and you
Absolutely.
bring in some Florida teams. And
Yes.
who would I like to see? Like you take Valdosta Lounge, Colquitt, Thomas County Central, kind of like they do in Broward County, and you bring up a St. Thomas Aquinas, a Chaminade Madonna, a Miami Central, Bowles out of Jacksonville, and I know Bowles has played. Uh, they played over, gosh, in Glen Academy, in that showcase they had over there. But yeah, let's bring up some of those. Look, in Florida, the South Florida teams tend to be the best. I mean, and that's proven itself year in, year out. So why not bring up, you know, American Heritage, Miami Central, St. Thomas Aquinas, and let them play Lowndes, Valdosta, Concord, and TCC. And I'm just saying that
Here,
off the top
here.
of my head.
Here, Mark. I have been saying the same thing. Would love to see the return. And Mark, I know that there has been some of these in years past. There's been something similar to a South Georgia Classic. In fact, it might have been called that. Where Lowndes, I remember they hosted a couple of teams from Florida. Mark, you remember that? Where they hosted Plant?
I think I do remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. They hosted American Heritage, but it was the one, not the one that you've seen play most recently. There's a couple of American Heritage down there. And this was, I'm trying to figure out how to say this. It wasn't the one that gets the most notoriety, but they're both very good.
Well, people know about high school football in South Georgia. Again, I've said it. We are spoiled when it comes to high school football. At the quality
Indeed. Yep.
of the football, the facilities, the coaches, the players, and the atmosphere. Look, those teams would be amazed to come up from South Florida and to come and to play in South Georgia at these stadiums, see the facilities, see the crowds, see the tailgate. It is a completely different atmosphere from what they experience there. And
Well, yep.
it's special. Look, South Georgia, it's as good as it gets. This pocket of South Georgia is as good as it is anywhere in the country, including Texas. Yes, Texas has it's a bigger state. They have more of it. But as far as passionate fans that care about their program, the quality and the physicality of the game, I'll take South Georgia all day long.
Two things, Mark, about your comment. So people will probably recognize the name. Let's see. Now you got Chaminade Madonna, and then you've got, is it Chaminade Catholic? They both are state powerhouses down there. Chaminade.
Yeah, I get a lot of them mixed up, and there's a lot of Catholic schools down there, right?
There was one. It's the one, Mark, that we wrote about, and I may be disclosing to some folks out there who may not know this. And I'll look it up here. There was a team down there. I want to say there's Chaminade. I'll look it up. Okay, because I'm butchering the name up. It was a powerhouse of a football team down there They were are a small school. Mark, you'll remember this. It'll come to you when I start talking about this. The school was small, did not even have a practice field. And what
Yes.
they, yeah, you remember that?
Yeah, I do. I cannot remember the name.
The team went, guys, and practiced at a local park because they rented a football field to play their games. Okay. But they had nowhere to practice. So they went to a park and just kind of drew out. And this is a true story. They drew out kind of a backyard high school football field where they practiced. Their kicker was an all-American kicker. He wound up going to the University of Miami. And I'll look up. I wrote a story about this probably about 4 years ago on this school. It's an amazing story, and I'm getting to a point here. I promise you. The kicker actually kicked the ball between two palm trees. that mimicked the uprights, and this is all a true story. Okay. And this team, guys, for years, they won, I think it was either the single A or double A, Florida State Championship, multiple years. So imagine this team came to Lowndes a few years back. And he said, and I can't remember his name right now, he's the head coach. He's no longer there at the school, but he told me, Mark, that they pulled up to Lowndes and said those kids were absolutely wide-eyed and mystified. Now, obviously, this is a team that came from pretty bad conditions, even though they were a solid program. But they pulled up to Lowndes, Mark, and they had played in other high school stadiums, but nothing like this. And it just goes to what you were talking about.
Well,
Lowndes is so
I
impressive.
mentioned. Being in Fort Lauderdale, it's about the nicest stadium we have is here at St. Thomas Aquinas. That's where the bigger games are played, and it's a nice stadium, but it's nothing like the bigger stadiums in South Georgia. I mean, it's just a completely different animal. I noticed Stephen K. Wynn mentioned Manatee. I played St. John's Bosco at that Brawley County Showcase. It was called at halftime due to lightning. Manatee was getting beat 31 to nothing. Of course, St. John Bosco, we're talking they're like modern day. Those are two of the better teams in the country. I tell you, if you want to see a good game, I'm sure it'll be nationally televised. I'd like to look and see and record it. But St. Francis to beat Chaminade Madonna handily is going to California to play St. John's Bosco this Friday. That will be an interesting game.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if you want to look at some top high school football programs that move around a lot.
All right, so the school I was talking about has since closed their doors after 54 years. And it was Hialeah, Florida, just outside of between Fort Lauderdale and Miami. And it was Chaminade Catholic. I know a lot of people are confusing it with Chaminade Madonna. But it was Chaminade Catholic. That's the school I'm talking about. And this is the school again. Did not even have a home stadium. Didn't have a practice field. But this school won multiple state championships and had no place to call home. And now the school has been closed. How about that?
Well, when I was down at Cardinal Gibbons with my buddy Matt DeBuck, gosh, during the summer, I guess.
Yeah.
And just talking to some of the other admin at the school, it's competitive down there with these private schools. Getting students to, let's face it, they're private schools. They collect tuition. That's how they're funded. So it's very competitive, getting students to come to your school.
Right. Yeah, it really is. Timmy Cox says Ware County plays Florida teams back to back. Which ones do they have, Timmy? Let us know about that. My buddy Obadiah Farley had a question for us. Let me see what it is. By the way, apparently this Manatee team, Mark, that Lowndes is going to play. Last year, Lowndes was the only loss they had.
Well, they'll be their only loss again this year, I guess. I don't think they're going to come to the Concrete Palace and beat the Vikings. Listen, St. John Bosco, they're the real deal. They were winning 31 to nothing at halftime. I'm not saying Lowndes is St. John Bosco, but it's hard to beat Lowndes at the Concrete Palace.
Obadiah Farley wants to know, what was your shocker game of the week? Let me see here. I'll tell you what it was.
FSU.
They're talking high school.
Yeah. I just had to throw that out. I guess my other shocker was Arch Manning looked like a deer in headlights. Texas and Ohio State. I'll let you handle the high school shocker, Phil. Brooks and Cup.
Go ahead.
Brooks and Cup.
Possibly. I was going to say Veterans. Veterans had an upset win, and I have to look it up. But that was a big shocker. There was a couple games that were shockers. Obadiah, let me turn it back to you and ask you, what was your shocker?
Obadiah shocker was TCC scoring 70 something. He was thinking they were only going to score 50, not 70, not in the 70s. That's his big shock.
I don't know. I think they pretty much. Here's a good one, and this is compliments of Alan Clanton, by the way. So Alexander was 33 points. Now listen. Let's take this with a grain of salt. I love Lauren Maxwell. I consider him a friend. I just interviewed him last week. As we all know, the Georgia High School Football Daily uses Lauren Maxwell's rating system, Mark, as a system to predict games or point spreads. Call it what you will. They call it projected margin of victory. It's a point spread. And the problem that I've got, and again, I've told Lauren about this, they're pretty much going off of last year's data. They don't really take into account player personnel, which to me is everything. For example, according to Lauren Maxwell, Irwin is still a powerhouse. According to my data, which is based on personnel that you lose, I saw that Irwin had lost pretty much everybody. I knew that would be a struggle this year, and it has been. Anyway, having said all that, Alexander was a 33-point underdog according to Lauren Maxwell. Well, they won 34-31. So if you're basing it off of Maxwell's ratings, then yes, it was a huge upset, but I don't necessarily look at his ratings. Mark, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. What happened last year really doesn't matter at this point. Stephen Tate brought up a good one. Creekside
yes,
was the biggest shocker. Stephen Tate, that's right.
There you go.
A huge shocker. Them DeSoto the way they did.
Here, Mark. And I think it's that's pretty much head and shoulders, I think, above everything else is the shocker of the week.
Yeah, 100%.
But I do want to give a shout out to Veterans. Veterans has really struggled. They had what I projected as the toughest schedule of the season last year, Mark. A very tough schedule again this year. But Veterans, I think, won one game last year, if I'm not mistaken. They go out and hire Steve Dvorsny, Mark, to take over Veterans. Remember, he was the longtime Cairo head coach. And Steve Dvorsny gets the Colquitt County defensive coordinator. What was his name, Mark? He coached with Rush for a while. He was kind of the brains behind their defense down there at Colquitt. Somebody help me out with him, with his name. Dvorsny somehow managed to pry him away from Colquitt County to go up there and be Veterans defensive coordinator. Not only him, Mark, but Dvorsny also got Ashley Anders to leave Lowndes and come to Veterans. And those two guys are like co-defensive coordinators. And I got to be honest with you, yeah, I don't think you can find two better defensive minds than those guys. And somebody help me out with that name.
Well, Phil,
I know
you're
what I'm
probably
talking
right,
about.
but again, I think the issue at veterans, and it's kind of one of those things. I don't know how you get over it. You're playing in the shadow of Warner Robins and Northside in Houston County, and that tradition that Northside and Warner Robins has. I think Houston County is
Yeah.
taking them years and years now to establish a good program. I think that's part of what's going on. I think it's hard. It's hard to play in that county when you have those other teams with those legendary programs.
Well, Mark, so let's talk about that for a second. Um, you had for years Perry really struggled. In fact, I really kind of lost sight. Now, I really think this was an out of sight, out of mind situation, Mark. I think Perry, they were obviously one of the kind of the redheaded stepchild. I didn't even really consider them to be in Houston County. I know they are. But when I thought about Warner Robins and Houston County, I kind of thought of those big four, right? The Warner Robins, Northside Warner Robins, Houston County, Veterans. Well, suddenly, you got Perry. Am I missing one, guys? Um, but for years, it was Northside Warner Robins were the winners. Warner Robins were the winners. And then you kind of had, Houston County kind of went back and forth. Remember when Veterans first started up, they were a really decent program.
Yeah, I think there was a little bit of momentum, but yeah, it's tough. It's tough to be in Houston County with Northside, Warner Robins, and then Hoco there. I think they'll face an uphill battle. It's going to take getting players in there. And we've talked about it as far as players moving around. I'm assuming if you live in Houston County, you're supposed to attend the school where you're zoned to go, I guess,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
But that's a case to where, you know, you maybe you could somehow get by, but it's funny. It seems like most of the players wind up. For a long time, it was Northside and Warner Robins, right?
right.
Nobody else got the players. Perry didn't get them. Hoko didn't get them. Of course, Veterans is not getting them. Now, I think Coach Smith's done a great job in Perry, and the kids that are in Perry are staying in Perry. They are
Yeah,
not leaving. Now,
right.
how you move around, that goes on, but it would certainly be easier to move around in that county than it would a lot of counties. So
Oh,
I
no
guess that's
question.
how the
Yeah.
players go to Warner Robins, Northside, and okay.
Yeah. But I guess what I'm saying, Mark, and it goes back to your point. You're always, I think, you're going to have a situation where the talent kind of goes in cycles. You'll have maybe a couple of schools that have the dominant classes of high school talent, football talent, and then you'll have a couple that struggle. You just mentioned Northside for years. Warner Robins for years had the talent, whereas Perry did not. I can remember Perry not even really being competitive year after year after year. You remember that?
Oh yeah, yeah for
Yeah.
sure. But
And now, yeah, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say though, I think you're facing a situation if you are a bigger school, a 5A or 6A school, you have a higher probability that you can, and if you run a quote program where you are in the middle school and you're developing talent, then you have a better chance of sustaining, and having a good team year in, year out, as opposed to a smaller school. And even if they are in the middle school, you just law of numbers, you're not getting as many. Then if you're at a school and maybe it looks like you're going to have a down year, look, are you are you trying to put it out there that hey, I need a quarterback, I need a linebacker, and somebody appears and moves in. We know that happens.
Yeah, yeah.
So Phil, let me ask you this question. I'm just curious. If you're a head coach, how would you approach that? Would you stick? Hey, I'm going to play with the best that I have coming up in my program, and I do think most coaches do that. I do think this recruiting, if you will, or kids moving around, I think it happens with people that are on the periphery of the program. Would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, yeah, I would. I would.
Phil, would you go recruit somebody? Phil, would, no, come on, Phil. Maybe just, you just down and people, the pressure's on you to win. I mean, everybody's talking. I mean, what do you do?
You know, I, I guess I get it. I don't know. There's something about that that bothers me. And maybe it comes from me being old school, Mark. What I like is, and this is just the way I was raised. To me, high school football should be about it's my town versus your town. And what I mean by that is it's the guys, the kids that grew up, play Pop Warner football or, call it what you will, rec league football in your town. They came up playing in the system, the middle school system. Okay. And then that same group of kids grew up to play for the high school. To me, that's what I've always enjoyed about high school football. It was, okay, how has your community developed this group of players that all came up? Say, we all played together as fifth graders. Then we all played together as sixth and seventh graders. Then we all played together as eighth and ninth. You see my point? And to me, I think all that has just been shattered
Yeah,
by the
that's unfortunately that's been gone. Except again, it's up in South Georgia, these rural areas where people are playing with what they have. And Ken Hortman said Houston County rezoned their schools 8 or 9 years ago and took a talent-rich section of the country away from North Side and put those kids in the Warner Robins district. Devils went on their run soon after, and the Eagles program declined. And therein, I think the proof is in what he's saying. I mean, you got to have the kids to win.
oh, no doubt. I mean, no doubt. But again, it's like I don't know. Just again, I grew up in Tifton, Tift County. You had that. Back in the Gene Brody came in and made a big difference in the way that kids were raised. And I'm talking when I mean raised, I mean playing football raised. Let's take another situation. I think Rush Probst just changed the whole scope of high school football when he introduced this nutrition program at Colquitt County. Everybody has followed suit with that, Mark.
Yeah, I don't know. It's changed so much today. I just don't see. You're just gonna have the haves and the have-nots. That's what it boils down to.
Well, I hear what you're saying, but is it a matter of now instead of developing kids, is it now a matter of I'm going to out recruit you?
Well, you could only
Just asking.
develop. Look. All I'm
Yeah.
saying is if you have more kids, bigger schools, 5A, 6A, you
Yeah.
got take Lounge for instance. They got three middle schools feeding that program.
Right.
Odds
That's
are,
right.
as I mentioned, year in, year out, I'd go watch the Vikings play. I'd see some kids just make incredible plays. I'm like, hey, I'm not familiar with those guys. Well, they went to, one of the middle schools, have come up through the program. You could only develop so much, right? Sometimes you may not, you can have the biggest heart in the world, but if you
Yeah.
can't run and you just don't have that desire, there's only so much you can do. That's I think there will be ebbs and flows. If you see a program that is winning and has outstanding players year in, year out, they got to have some kids that are coming there. That's just where it is.
So I guess to your point, Mark, let me turn that around and ask So with Lowndes, you would think that they should have the multiple advantage of having all a strength in numbers is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think you'll see. I think you even mentioned when Coach Carter came in. I don't know the inner workings, I guess. I know when DuBose left, the cupboard was a little bit dry. I think Coach
Yeah.
Rage was on his way to doing an outstanding job. Don't know
So
what happened there. So Coach Carter has to come in, and now he has to put his imprint on those middle school programs and get everybody pulling in the same direction. You just
yeah,
can't do that in 1 year, or even 2 years for that matter. So I do think that you'll start to see Lowndes turn the corner and get back to what we would expect. I do think it's there. That's why I think it's a great place to be. They have great facilities. They have three middle schools. I think in this year they have a good quarterback. They've had some good players come up, but I do
yeah,
think you see. So yeah, the same thing with Valdosta. They've got some numbers there and they've got several middle schools in their program. So, yeah, I do think both those teams have an advantage over if you look at a smaller school, in Quitman or
yeah.
Cook County, even, or
Sure.
even like go to Houston County.
Right.
You know, depending on what zone you're in,
Right.
there's a lot of high schools fighting for those players. And it,
Well,
and if
yeah.
it, and if it and if it's played out like it's supposed to be, and you
Yeah.
go where you are zoned, then then you're going to see those. You're going to have some great years, but then you're going to have some down years. I mean,
Right. Right.
look, I tell this story, and look, this is just in my travels and talking to people. I don't think you'll never see a run like Bazemore and Hyder had at Valdosta. Now,
Absolutely.
do I think Bazemore and Hyder were recruiting? I don't, but I think people wanted to come to Valdosta. I
Yes.
think look, there was a mistake. There's some people wanted to come, and so I met this guy, and we were talking, and he said, yeah, you live in. He said, where do you live? I said, well, I was living in Valdosta at the time, and he said, yeah. He said, he played college ball. He won college ball. He said, yeah, I had a guy on my team that played for the Wildcats. And I said, really? From Valdosta? He said, no, no, no. He was from somewhere in Florida, but he went to play high school ball in Valdosta. You know, so I'm saying you're going to have players to win those kinds of, to keep winning year in, year out constantly. Now,
Yeah.
90% of the players could have been from Valdosta, but they had a couple come in during that time here and there.
So you're saying they just kind of got flew under the radar. These kids did. Is what you're saying?
No, I'm just saying again, this is, I had no idea. This guy saying, yeah, one of my teammates played for Valdosta. I said, oh, really? He said, no, he was from somewhere in Florida, and he moved to Valdosta to play his high school ball in Valdosta.
Yeah. Okay, I
I'm
got
just
you.
saying that it's no different than today, for example. You got kids moving across the country. You got the kid from California that came and played at Valdosta. You have this year Milton. Some kids came from Wisconsin. Guy came up from South Florida. I mean, it only takes one or two. If you have a really good program, it only takes a couple of good skill players to come there, or fill in the holes that you need to make a big difference. And that 100% is happening.
Got you. Well, Mark, Jose Padilla made the show just in the nick of time. How are you, Mr. Phil? TCC in the house. Jose, appreciate you, brother. As always, I love to see you checking into the show, my man. Ken Hortman, great to see you checking in as well. I know we've mentioned your name a couple of times. Well, Mark, let's give our final word as we get ready to bail out of here at 7 o'clock.
Well, Phil, what are you looking forward to most to seeing this Friday?
I tell you, I'm really looking forward to a couple of things. I'm looking forward to it's not this Friday, but the next game for Colquitt is going to be Lee County. I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to seeing how Lee County bounces back. It's not again this Friday, but it will be tomorrow, Mark. I'm looking to see how Lee County bounces back against Hateville Charter as those two teams meet up to play one half of football. Can Lee County, Mark, my question to you, can Lee County make up I'll say the wrongs, but that's not the right word. Can they make up and correct some of the things that we've seen over the last 6 quarters? 4 against Tift, those first 2 against Hateville Charter, Mark. Are we going to be able to see Lee County, you think, bounce back and correct all their wrongs and miscues in one half of football? What are your thoughts?
Well, against Hateville Charter, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, they'll get the job done, and
He
Hatefield's
didn't
got to work
hesitate.
on the power ranking there, but yeah, I think they'll get it done. They
Go ahead.
may not
Yeah.
solve all their problems, but I do believe that they will get it done.
But real quick, Buford and Roswell coming up Friday. That's going to be a lot to talk about on Roswell's coaches show. Be sure to catch that as well as all of our coach shows. And then Grayson taking on Mallard Creek, North Carolina. Boy, Grayson just not backing down, Mark. Continuing
Not
to take on
not
all
backing
comers.
down. I think that train will keep rolling.
I agree with you 100%. Mark, what games are you looking forward to? And I'll give you the final word.
Well, no, I think you mentioned I'm looking to see if Grayson can keep winning,
Yeah.
seeing how Buford plays after, if they can keep things rolling and keep improving, and then also
Against
looking to see
Roswell.
how Brooks County, and then on a national level, how St. Francis does going to play St. John Bosco in California. I mean, that's a long plane ride from Maryland, but
Man,
they got some athletes there
that's going to be a great one.
for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, Phil, I guess we'll get ready to wind it up. Why don't you sign off for us?
All right, guys. Thanks so much, everybody, for checking out the show. Really, we have a blast talking to you guys. It seems like we get started at 5:30, and just like that, the show is done with. But anyway, thanks so much for checking out the show, guys. Don't forget, we'll come back on Friday, and it's our Friday special edition of Extra Point, where Mark and I will get together and talk about all the games going on around the state. And remember, that's our expanded 2-hour edition. We'll start at 10 o'clock and go till midnight. And we'll be doing that this Friday. A lot of football to talk about. Of course, in the meantime, you don't have to wait until Friday. Check out the ITG Next Georgia newsletter. Chock full of good stuff. We put out 2 newsletters this week. You can subscribe to it absolutely free. Just go to itgnextgeorgia.com and you can sign up free. And again, we put that out every week, twice a week now on Facebook. So be sure to check it out, guys. And that's going to do it.
See you Friday, Phil.
Okay, guys, have a good week, everybody. We'll see you Friday on Extra